Hi, it's Shiloh. I am home today and I'm going to show you a demo of how to make hominy using baking soda. So what I've been taught, the ancestral or traditional way of processing dry corn into hominy is by using ash from hardwood trees. So that includes the ash tree, hickory, beech, sugar maple, and buckeye trees. But where I live, I typically don't have access to those particular hardwoods. And I also don't have a space to burn them down into culinary ash that I need to do this. So this might be an alternative method that you could use at home if you also don't have access to these woods or space to make the ash. But before we jump into the demo, I thought it might be helpful to first define what hominy is, uh, briefly go over the different types of corn, and then also briefly talk about why would we want to process dry corn this way. What does it do for us and why is it important? So let's go ahead and talk about that and then we'll get started cooking. What is hominy? Hominy is when you take dry corn like flint dent popcorn varieties and mix it with wood ash from hardwood trees or another alkaline solution like baking soda, lime, or kale. Hominy, or nixtamal in Mexico, is the end product of this process. This process itself is called nixtamalization. Nixtamalization is an ancestral technology that dates back thousands of years in the Americas. This food processing knowledge originated in Central America alongside maize or corn. Originally, hardwood ash was used in nixtamalization because of its lye content. Lye could also be obtained by leaching ashes. Lye itself is a strong alkali which produces caustic solution. This caustic chemical action that occurs when using lye is what helps break down the hard outer layer of the corn, also known as the pericarp. This allows the corn to rehydrate and makes it more digestible, but most importantly, nixtamalization process makes the corn more nutritious. In untreated corn, the niacin, also known as vitamin B3, does not break down in your gut, and the alkaline treatment makes the niacin available in the human digestive tract. Depending on which alkaline solution you use, this process can also contribute calcium, potassium, and trace minerals to the corn. For example, in Mexico and Central America, slack lime or kale in Spanish is used to make the alkaline solution. This can actually increase the calcium content of the corn. Over time, as maize moved around the continent through extensive trade routes, indigenous food processing knowledge around nixtamalization went with the corn. However, although corn spread across the globe, the preparation of nixtamal and hominy stayed primarily in the Americas. As stated earlier, nixtamalization makes vital nutrients more readily available during digestion. A deficiency of niacin in the diet causes pellagra, a debilitating disease characterized by 3 Ds: dermatitis, diarrhea, and dementia. Pellagra was rampant in societies who adopted this new crop and whose diets consisted primarily of corn, but did not adopt this food processing knowledge around nixtamalization. It wasn't until 1937 that this disease was finally recognized as being caused by a deficiency of niacin, also known as B3. So to review the benefits of nixtamalization, it makes dry corn edible, it makes it more nutritious, and it actually helps to remove traces of mold from dry corn. Now let's make hominy. We will need the following supplies: dry corn, baking soda, water, a non-reactive pot, spoon, and colander. When it comes to corn, any type of corn can be made into nixtamal. However, flint, dent, and popcorn varieties have a bit more bite to the kernel. Here you can see a couple of the different types of corn that I have at home. This is the Cherokee White Eagle corn that we grew in the garden last year at the Sacred Roots Garden. If you see on the edge here at the end, has a little indentation. That's how you know that it's a dent corn variety. The white corn here is a flint corn variety. It's actually a Walpole Island flint corn that we grew in the Sacred Roots Garden a couple of years ago. Very similar, also really hard corn variety. Can be made into cornmeal and flour or hominy. And then this is a strawberry popcorn that we grew 2 years ago in the Sacred Roots Garden. You can see how small the kernels are. And then in this little container is actually some sweet corn that I roasted over a fire and then cut off the cob and dehydrated. It has a really nice smoky flavor. But today we're going to be using this Cherokee White Eagle corn, the blue corn. So right now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of baking soda to some simmering water, and you can see right away that it starts bubbling or foaming up. I'm going to give a little stir to make sure that it dissolves in the water. And now I'm going to grab my dry corn and go ahead and add that. I'm going to go ahead and stir that really well to make sure that the solution gets mixed around the corn really well. And almost immediately you'll start to see the corn change almost to a neon yellow color. And this is because of the chemical reaction with the alkaline solution. So stir this a little bit more, and then I'm going to let this simmer for about 20 minutes and then turn it off. And here we have the corn 20 minutes later. You can see how dark the water has gotten from some of the color of the corn leaching out. But if you look really closely, you can start to see that the kernels have started to swell a little bit. Now I'm going to cover it and let it sit overnight. So it's morning and the hominy has been soaking overnight. So let's go ahead and check it now. So you can see after it's been soaking, it started to swell a little bit. And now we're going to go over to the sink and rinse this off and start rubbing it together to start to get the seed coat or the period cap off. So as you're doing your initial rinse, you'll either want to be really careful, or here I'm actually wearing a pair of food grade gloves to protect my skin against the alkaline solution. So get all the corn out and then give it a really good rinse. Making sure to move the corn around a little bit and try to get as much of that alkaline solution off that you can. After you thoroughly rinse your corn, you don't have to worry as much about your skin getting irritated. So that's why I take a little bit of extra time to make sure it's rinsed really, really well. As you can see here, I'm using my nail to pull the seed coat off of the kernel. And that's actually what the nixtamalization process allows us to do. Now, with the corn kind of soaking in water, I'm going to rub the corn together through my hands several times, and the friction helps to get the seed coats off of the kernels. You'll start to see they're starting to slough off a little bit. And you just keep doing this several times, changing your water out until the water runs clean. For me, this process took about 45 minutes to really get the kernels really clean and the water clean. So you can see here how dirty it still is, so I have to do it another time until it comes out clean. At this point, the kernel is starting to get softer, but if you split it with your nail, you'll actually notice that the inside is still quite dry and hard. So what I'm going to do now is bring the corn back up to a gentle boil. You don't want to boil too hard or you might have a burned or off taste afterwards. But we're going to let this boil for 2 to 4 hours until the kernel is soft and the inside is no longer white and dry when you press through with your fingernail. At this point, your hominy is done and you can use it however you wish. I'm making a Three Sister soup with butternut squash and kidney beans and the hominy. If you want, you can dehydrate or freeze your hominy to use at a later point. I will include a recipe of the Three Sisters soup along with the video, and I hope you enjoy.